The sound of a spoon hitting the floor echoed louder than it should have, cutting through the warm daytime buzz of the cafe like a small cry for help. The young waitress froze for a second, eyes burning, chest tight, phone pressed against her ear as tears slid down her cheeks. She turned slightly toward the window, sunlight pouring over her apron, and whispered the words that had been breaking her heart for weeks. She couldn't come home for Christmas. It wasn't the distance that hurt most. It was the knowing her mother would pretend to be strong, knowing the house would feel emptier without her, and knowing she had done everything right in life, yet still ended up here, choosing between rent and family. What she didn't know was that this ordinary afternoon in this ordinary cafe was about to quietly change her life forever. Before the story continues, if you believe that kindness still matters, that second chances can come from unexpected places, and that one good deed can change a life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Good Deed Stories. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Her name was Maria Santos, and she had been working double shifts for months without complaint. The cafe sat on a busy city street, filled with sunlight, clinking cups, and the low hum of daytime conversations. Most customers came and went without noticing her exhaustion, the way her shoulders slumped just a little more each week, or how she always smiled even when her feet throbbed. Maria was 24, far from her hometown, and carrying responsibilities that felt far too heavy for her age. After her father passed away unexpectedly, medical bills swallowed what little savings the family had. Her mother took on sewing jobs at home, but it wasn't enough. Maria left college, packed one suitcase, and moved to the city to help keep the lights on back home. Christmas had always been sacred in their family. It was the one time of year they felt whole, and this year, Maria knew she wouldn't be there. The call from her mother came during her short break, sunlight streaming through the cafe windows as people laughed at nearby tables. Her mother's voice was gentle, asking if she had eaten, telling her not to worry, saying Christmas could be postponed. Maria listened, nodding even though no one could see her, gripping the phone as guilt and longing twisted inside her. She calculated again in her head, rent, utilities, a bus ticket she could maybe afford if she skipped meals, but a plane ticket was impossible. When she ended the call, her legs gave out for a moment, and that was when the spoon fell. She wiped her face quickly, ashamed of the tears, unaware that someone had been quietly watching. At a corner table near the window sat Alastair Keane, a man most people would never recognize despite his influence stretching across continents. He was known in business circles as a billionaire innovator, but today he was simply another customer, dressed plainly, sipping black coffee, enjoying the anonymity he rarely had. He had come to the cafe not for the food, but for the stillness. Yet the stillness broke when he noticed Maria, not because she was crying. People cried in public all the time, but because of how she cried, silently, respectfully, as if she believed even her pain should not inconvenience anyone else. The rest of Maria's shift passed in a blur. She served tables, refilled cups, and forced smiles, the ache in her chest growing heavier with each mention of holidays, travel plans, and family gatherings she overheard. The cafe filled with afternoon light, then slowly began to empty as the day moved on. When her shift finally ended, she felt hollowed out, emotionally drained. She cleaned her station, hung her apron, and prepared to leave, thinking only about the long walk back to her small apartment and the message she would send her mother later, pretending everything was fine. As she stepped outside, the sunlight still strong in the sky, she was startled when a calm voice addressed her. Alastair had followed her out, holding his coat over one arm, his expression kind but measured. He asked if she was all right. Maria hesitated. She wasn't used to strangers noticing her pain, let alone asking about it. She gave a polite nod, ready to brush him off, but something in his eyes made her pause. She didn't tell him everything. She didn't mention the bills or the sacrifices. She simply said she couldn't afford to go home for Christmas. Saying it out loud made it hurt more. Alastair listened without interrupting. He didn't offer advice or platitudes. He didn't tell her everything would be okay. He thanked her for her honesty, wished her well, and left. Maria stood there for a moment, confused, then shrugged it off. Kind words were nice, but they didn't buy plane tickets. She walked home under the bright afternoon sky, unaware that the encounter had already settled deeply in Alastair's mind. That evening, Alastair sat in his quiet penthouse, city lights beginning to glow as day faded. He thought about Myria's face, the way she tried to carry her disappointment with dignity. He thought about how easy it would be to solve her problem, and how complicated kindness sometimes felt when wealth created distance. He remembered his own childhood Christmases, when money had been tight but family had been everything. He didn't want to be someone who walked past pain just because he could afford to ignore it. The next day, the cafe buzzed again with daylight energy. Myria arrived early, unaware that anything had changed. Mid-morning, her manager approached her with an envelope, saying a customer had left it for her. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it, expecting perhaps a tip or a thank-you note. Inside was a printed flight itinerary, a round-trip plane ticket, home for Christmas, her name spelled correctly, dates perfectly aligned with her days off. She felt the room tilt as realization hit. There was also a short note, written simply, telling her that no one should miss Christmas with their family if it can be helped. Myria sank into a chair, tears flowing freely now, not from sadness but from disbelief. She looked around, searching for the man from the corner table, but he wasn't there. Her coworkers gathered, confused and curious, as she tried to explain between sobs. The sunlight pouring through the windows felt warmer somehow, as if the day itself was celebrating with her. Later that afternoon, Alastair returned briefly, not seeking attention. Myria spotted him and rushed over, gratitude radiating from her. She tried to thank him, words tumbling over each other, but he gently stopped her, telling her to go home, hug her mother, and enjoy Christmas. That was thanks enough. He left before she could say more, leaving behind a quiet miracle. In the days that followed, Myria packed her small suitcase with a joy she hadn't felt in years. She arrived home to her mother's tears and tight embrace, the house filled again with warmth and laughter. Christmas morning felt brighter, meals tasted richer, and conversations lasted longer. Myria told her mother about the stranger who had helped her, and they both prayed for him that night, grateful beyond words. Back in the city, life went on. Myria returned to work after the holidays with renewed strength and hope. She worked hard, saved diligently, and eventually returned to school part-time. She never forgot what that simple act of kindness had given her, not just a trip home, but faith in people again. And Alastair, for his part, carried the memory quietly, reminded that his greatest investments weren't measured in profit, but in moments like that. As this story comes to a close, if it touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of compassion and the impact of one small decision, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Good Deed Stories so more moments like this can be shared. And before you go, we have one special request for you. Please comment below about a time when kindness changed your life, or a moment when you witnessed a good deed that stayed with you. Your story might inspire someone else who needs it today. Because sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary day, under ordinary sunlight, one act of kindness can turn a moment of heartbreak into a lifetime of gratitude.